Hi, I was the proud co-author of Senate Bill 2155, and we certainly think that community banks have, in fact, received the kind of relief that allows them to overcome the challenges of Volcker. We encourage additional discussion, or at least I do, I shouldn't say we, and so look forward to hearing your concern. One of the questions that I have, as we look at the commodity markets and as we look at the futures markets, obviously we're in a difficult time for a lot of commodities today. As we look at what's happening with soybeans, what's happening with corn, whether it's disruption in the, as Amy pointed out, in the E15 rules or in allowing basically small refiners to get exemptions, therefore giving the volumes out the back door. I mean, this all has an effect on the corn markets. And I think as we look at disruption in trade, that's going to now raise some concerns about how the futures markets are responding. And I'd just like to hear any comment that you have, Mr. Berkovitz, regarding how this trade war could, in fact, impact the work of this agency.
Thank you, Senator. I'm aware that a number of commodity prices, due to a variety of factors, are basically there have been significant declines in a number of commodity prices due to a number of factors. Weather and the trade issues have been reported as one of those factors. I haven't had the opportunity yet to look closely into this. I'm basically reading, my knowledge is limited right now to what I'm reading in the press. Certainly, if confirmed over at the agency, I would very much look into the markets. There's a market surveillance unit at the CFTC which follow these, and I would get together with the experts at the CFTC and get on top of exactly what is happening in our commodity markets, why we're seeing these price declines in certain of these markets at this time.
Well, I mean, I can't tell you with some certainty we're seeing price decline because we're losing markets. When local grain elevators in North Dakota won't take soybeans, that tells you something about what's happening with commodity prices. So I think it's important that we not find I think people who would take advantage of this trade war into speculation beyond liquidity. I mean, there's a fine line between liquidity and speculation. We're always looking for it. It depends on, you know, if you look at the cattle markets, obviously I think the cattle markets are one of those markets you've been talking about, which is we see fewer entrants and it's becoming more and more difficult to find liquidity in the cattle markets. And obviously we've had the chairman out who's spent a lot of time, and I think he can brief you very well on what the concerns are of North Dakota cattlemen as it relates to the futures market. I want to turn to you, Mr. Hubbard, and thank you again, both of you, for your willingness to advance your careers, provide us with great public service. But, Mr. Hubbard, there's two issues that I want to address beyond all the regular ones. We spend a lot of time with the Forest Service. By an anomaly of history, you have grasslands in my state. And that means the grazing associations are constantly running up against unnecessary and I think, onerous kind of regulations. And one of the great problems they have right now is prairie dogs. I don't think we always feel like we've gotten the right kind of response from the Forest Service. I want you to take a look at the prairie dog issue. It literally will destroy your grasslands if we don't get out ahead of this. No, there's a lot of people who have a I don't know, some kind of attachment to prairie dogs. There's no rancher in North Dakota who has an attachment to prairie dogs. I will tell you that. The other question that I want to raise, and I raised this with your predecessor, and that is a case that I was involved in when I was Attorney General in North Dakota. It's a case involving section lines. The grasslands were reacquired in North Dakota. We argued, and I think with a great deal of persuasive legal reasoning, that when the Forest Service reacquired those, they reacquired those lands with the impediment or with the easements embedded into those lands by a fluke of the Department of Justice arguing that we weren't timely. And I can get into a whole discussion. I don't have a lot of time, and I know the chairman's gonna beat me up here pretty quick. But I would ask that you look at that case that was decided in the North Dakota District Court, that you try and do right by the state of North Dakota, that tried to do right by the Forest Service and the federal government, and feels like they got burned by being patient. And so if you could look at that, that section line case, and obviously we need to get out ahead of the concerns that our ranchers and our grazing associations have regarding prairie dogs. Thank you. Thank you both.